Hey guys, Zane here with another One Take review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Current Value album, Platinum Scatter. Platinum Scatter is the latest studio album from Germany-based underground electronic project Current Value. The brainchild of electronic music musician and producer Tim Elliott, the Current Value project's impact in underground music since its start in the late 90s has been fairly impactful, as it has made up for its lack of commercial and even critical success and acclaim by creating a distinct sound that those in the know have always had an eye on, as it continues to evolve and continuously has been working on a hot streak since arguably the mid 2010s. With Platinum Scatter, Tim Elliott creates one of his most unique and distinguishable soundscapes to date. The reason that I refer to Platinum Scatter as a soundscape above anything else instead of just record, album, etc., is that this is an album in the truest sense of the dictionary definition of the word. This is the kind of record that has songs that can only be fully appreciated in the direct, complete context of Platinum Scatter, and otherwise they simply just don't hit the mark quite as well, despite the fact that they are still excellent pieces. You have to listen to Platinum Scatter in the same way that you would listen to an orchestra perform a 7-part different orchestral piece. You can't just skip the parts 3 and 4 and then ignore the rest and say that you really genuinely understand what is being done on that particular performance. Platinum Scatter is the kind of thing that you need to hear from front to back despite its length. It is absolutely worth it, and it's the way that it was intended to be listened to, unlike a lot of albums that are really just based around individual tracks succeeding, but not necessarily being super cohesive in the grand scheme of things. Platinum Scatter's very blueprints were traced around the concepts of singularity and consistency in regards to the actual music itself, and running at over 70 minutes in length, this is a fairly daunting task even for the most hardcore of Current Value fans, though then again the Current Value project has never been one for shorter releases, but it is Tim Elliott's ability to just really create intriguing, gripping compositions that are constantly flowing and evolving in different, intriguing, unique, even unexpected ways that keeps you engaged with the album long enough to warrant every single second of that 70-plus minute runtime. Now, there isn't a single proper highlight on the entirety of Platinum Scatter, and that can definitely be a turnoff for a lot of people, a lot of more casual electronic fans, even people such as myself who sometimes just don't want to sit down and listen to an entire 70-minute long album to really appreciate the broad work of art that is being presented alongside it. But again, it is the aforementioned compositional skills of Tim Elliott that allow this entire piece to shine through and work without any actual highlights being applicable to the project and a retrospective look at it after listening to it. In fact, there are times where Platinum Scatter completely abandons the definition of the word composition in and of itself, as it embraces more of an abstract and fluid style of performance that still has enough rigidness to actually work as a piece overall, something that is easy to listen to and dissect from a musical standpoint without ever kind of wading into the waters of pointlessness and meandering. And instead of Elliott letting his fire just sort of flicker out slowly due to a lack of confidence, he really puts all of his faith into this darkly mechanical aspect of his sound, of his particular style, of the aesthetic of Platinum Scatter, and it ends up working out for the better. Ultimately, this ends up lending a hand to the previously mentioned ever-flowing style of Platinum Scatter, and overall, I have to say that with this Current Value record, Tim Elliott has created something more effectively industrial than the vast majority of albums released under the industrial music genre within the past couple of years. Platinum Scatter is even genuinely haunting at times, and that can easily be said to stem from the sort of connectedness, the constant bleeding together of all of the different tracks on this record, the kind of thing where unless you actually have the track list or the, Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming platform you use as tab up, you probably won't be able to tell when there's one song switching to another. That sort of connectedness and bleeding together, that really does just ultimately influence this sort of haunting tone, as the record feels very dystopian at times, as it heavily takes on a sort of mechanical quality that, while not leaving out any sort of rawness or anything like that, that is definitely needed for most types of electronic music to thrive and really succeed in its singular environment, really does kind of create something unique and almost violently unviolent. Yeah, I know, this record's so good, it's got me making up words like unviolent, but I genuinely can't really describe it super well. This is the kind of record that feels so subdued, but like it could explode at any minute into something really violent, and there are times where it comes remarkably close to. It's not like this is some sort of electronic punk record or anything like that. It's about as far from that as you can theoretically get, but at the same time, there is a restraint here that's holding back in a way, sort of like a really good George Orwell novel or something along those lines. In a way, this kind of reminds me of a Kurt Vonnegut short story, actually, sort of a Harrison Bergeron kind of trope here, something that's very serious and self aware of its seriousness, and as such applies itself to its own work in a manner that comes across as very passionate and very well sort of educated about what it's actually doing, but still holds a bit of restraint for the sake of metaphor and for open ended listening and experience from person to person who's taking on this piece of art. I mean, Tim Elliott very obviously calculated just about every single second of Platinum Scatter, yet at the same time there is an emotional honesty about it that makes it very likable and distinct from a lot of its peers. Again, this is kind of like reading a highly political sci-fi novel about, I don't know, burning books or something within the realm of metaphorical seriousness. It is sort of cold and disturbing, chaotic yet controlled. Overall, it's a kind of record that feels conservative musically, but because of that conservative quality being so cold and mechanical and dark and restrained, it comes across as somewhat radical in the current field of electronic music, even in the underground where a lot of crazy experimental stuff is currently going on and is going on very underappreciated at that. Purposeful or not, Platinum Scatter is just about as musically mind-bending and overall kind of influential in terms of actually what it could be influencing, I guess I should say. It's sort of has the potential to be very influential, and at that it's also very impactful as well from a conceptually twisted point of view, and that's sort of why I love this record in a way. It truly does stand out from electronic music, not only this year, but for the past several years. For every really great album like this, there is probably 100 other albums that try to do something fairly experimental with electronic music, but a lot of them can't quite capture the tones and vibes and overall open-ended storytelling-like qualities of a record like Platinum Scatter without sounding corny, but Platinum Scatter is anything but corny. So overall, Platinum Scatter is everything that I could ask for and more from a new Current Value album and from a general experimental electronic album as well. This is just genuinely a highly impressive record that, while I probably would only recommend if you are deeply, deeply interested in electronic music, simply due to its runtime and the potentially pretentious manner that one could view or not view this record in, I still do think it's something that most of you should at least check out and give the time of day, as it does create an atmosphere that's like no other that you will hear this year. I'm going to give this record 4.5 stars out of 5. My one take on this album is that this is mathematically precise, yet willing to wade into darker and more experimental waters, as Platinum Scatter is without a doubt in my mind one of the greatest accomplishments of electronic music so far in the year 2022. So again, 4.5 stars out of 5, and with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.